everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we will be diving into the tragic details about the cast of Different Strokes. Y'all, this story is sad and effed up in so many ways. Like, damn. But before we begin, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And in the comment section today, let me know, have you ever watched Different Strokes? Did you watch the reruns? What did you think about it? Have you ever heard of the tragic details of the cast? Let me know down below in the comment section. But Different Strokes was definitely popular in my household. It definitely was. Also in this video, I will be eating some of my my gummies, and my jelly beans pear, of course. So let's begin. Okay. Okay. Premiering on November 3rd, 1978, Different Strokes was a touchstone of the 1980s pop culture. And who started it all? A man by the name of Norman Lear. He also did sitcoms as like All in the Family. By the way, that show All in the Family, watching it as an adult, that show was racist as fight me on that if you want to, but watching that show as an adult was racist as. He also did The Jeffersons and Good Times. The show was a classic fish out of water tale with a modern twist. Featuring Conrad Bain as a white millionaire widower. His name was Philip Drummond, who adopts two inner city kids from Harlem. How that came about is he had a housekeeper that was dying, and her last request was, when she passed, to please adopt her two boys and take care of them. And that's exactly what he did. Different Strokes tackled the touchy subjects of race and class with sensitivity and humor, with much of the show comedy arising from the brothers Arnold and Willis Jackson, played by Gary Coleman and Todd Bridges, and the struggles to adapt to their new lives. Different Strokes. Also it had that catchphrase, "What are you talking about, Willis?" That was Arnold talking to his older brother. If there was something that he didn't like or understand, he would turn with his face like this and be like, "What are you talking about, Willis?" Classic catchphrase. Over the course of its 8-year run, Different Strokes took on real-world problems such as teen crimes, eating disorders, and child sexual exploitation, with a seriousness never before seen on television. Hailed for its fearless writing and the charisma of its three young leads, the show attracted guest stars ranging from the legendary Muhammad Ali to First Lady Nancy Reagan. Fun fact, Janet Jackson was also, actually, Janet Jackson was a reoccurring guest star on that show. Alright, so let's dive into Gary Coleman. They all had really sad stories. Alright, although actor Conrad Bain had top billing, the undisputed star of Diff'rent Strokes was Gary Coleman. He was the youngest. He was a charisma 8-year-old when he was spotted by the writer Norman Lear. He spotted him in a commercial in 1976. Before being cast as Arnold in Diff'rent Strokes, Coleman made memorable appearances in some of the hit comedies The Jeffersons and Good Times. Unfortunately, Gary Coleman's life was largely his life sucked. Let's just say this in my own words. His life was a mess. He was born on February 8th, 1978 in Illinois. He was adopted as an infant. At birth, he was diagnosed with a number of serious illnesses. There's no point of me reading this long medical explanation, and for me to break it down, his kidneys did not work. They also say that Gary was a medical miracle. By the time he was 5, Coleman lost, we're just gonna call him Gary. Gary lost his right kidney to his disease, with the remaining kidney failing. Gary was forced to urinate with the aid of a surgical created bypass opening in his side. So basically, his kidneys did not work. Your kidneys filter your urine and everything else, right? So without that, the urine and the bacteria in your urine backs up into your blood, and that can make you very, very sick. So when your kidney is not working, a lot of times you have to go through dialysis to filter the blood and filter everything else. So by the age of 5, I think by the age of 10, he already had 2 kidney transplant. And because of that, during his recording on Diff'rent Strokes, a lot of times he would have dialysis for like 3-4 hours before acting. And that to me was amazing because, you know, being so young, he still had this smile and charisma about himself. Although he was very, very sick, there were times that he did not want to act because he didn't feel good, he was tired, or he was in pain. The drugs used to treat his disease stunted his growth. He would reach a height of only 4'8". He underwent 2 kidney transplants in his lifetime and underwent regular dialysis to clean his blood of toxins on the remainder of his life. And a lot of times, you know, people do dialysis like 3 or 4 times a week. At one point, he was doing it every single day for a couple of hours as a young child. As one of the most in-demand child stars of the 1980s, Gary's salary was more than double that of Diff'rent Strokes of his co-stars. He received a reported $70,000 per episode. Most of that money was supposed to go into a trust fund set up by Gary's adopted parents in the 1980s. So here we have a young kid who was adopted at birth, who had a lot of medical issues, and the people that were supposed to take care of him and love him was supposed to put all the money he earned from Diff'rent Strokes and from his acting career only $220,000 in his trust. Gary sued his parents and business manager for misappropriating the approximately $18 million he earned in his career. So think about it. You turn 18, you think you're gonna see $18 million in your account. You're sick, you're tired, you're done. Because at this point, Gary no longer wanted to do different strokes. He was done. He was tired medically, all of it. Could you imagine thinking that you had $18 million and come to find out you only had 200,000? Although the court awarded Gary a $1.3 million judgment because there was no money, that they spent it all. You can't get something that you don't have. So he got 1.3, but between legal costs and medical expenses, it left him penniless. He then was estranged from his adopted parents, and from there, he just went downhill. He was bitter as fuck. He just hated everyone. He just walked around with this anger. He didn't like to be photographed. He didn't like to talk to his fans. Fans would come up to him and say, say your famous line. What are you talking about, Willis? He would get upset about that. The career that made him who he is, I guess, was also a demon in a way, because look how the outcome of it all. Gary's life went into a downward spiral in the last 2 decades of his life. Eventually, he was forced to file for bankruptcy. Making ends meet as a security guard, Gary often let his anger get the best of him, with sadly public consequences. So he would just sit there and do an outburst in front of everybody where people can be filming and everything else. One incident in 1998, he got into a confrontation with someone asking to get his autograph. It led to his arrest. He got out of hand. It ended in a confrontation and he was arrested. After that, he was reported to attend anger management classes. On May 26th, Coleman struck his head in a fall at his home in Utah. He was loosened the following day, but then slipped into a coma. Gary died of a brain hemorrhage on May 28th, 2010. He was 42 years old. So basically what that means is when he fell, he hit his head, and although he was conscious at the time, he had a brain bleed in his head that made him go into a coma, and then he died. There has been speculation that his wife pushed him down the steps. I say that because, when this situation came out of his passing, they were explaining that they fought a lot. There was police called to his house all the time. They constantly fought, and it was only him and her in the house. That being said, Gary also did suffer from seizures, and they think that maybe he had a seizure, and in that case he had a seizure by the steps and he fell and hit his head. I say, when I heard about the wife, I said to myself, she probably did it only because of this. And I remember doing this on my old channel. Actually, no, not on my old channel, but I remember mentioning it because I was so disgusted. But she actually was posing. So Gary's in the hospital. His head is wrapped. There's tubes coming out of him, and she's sitting there. His wife is getting into bed with him, taking pictures, and actually sending it into the Inquirer for money. What the? So your husband is fighting for his life, and you thought it was cute to get in bed and smile and do this and that. Like, what the fuck? love. They just wanted to, pinch his cheeks to be this angry man that would curse out his fans, paparazzi, anyone. Now we're gonna go to I think her name is Dana Pluto. Now Dana, this was really sad. Now Dana Pluto, she was the daughter of Mr. Drummond. That was his biological daughter. Under the pressure of sudden fame, Dana, who appeared as Philip Drummond's daughter, Kimberly, began using marijuana, prescription pills, and cocaine while shooting different strokes. According to a 1999 feature in People's, at 15, she was showing up on the set drunk. At 18, she became pregnant and was written off the show. Unable to launch a series acting career, she appeared in Playboy and in a few B-grade movies. Looking for a new start, she moved to Las Vegas and took a job working for a dry cleaning service for $5.75 an hour. And so here you have this young lady who was, a young star on this big show, right? She doesn't know how to handle all the fame and money, and she began using marijuana, prescription pills, and cocaine while shooting, forgetting lines and everything else. On the show, she was supposed to have like this. She had like a perfect image on the show, and they didn't want her personal life ruining that image on the show. So they basically let her go. They rolled her out as far as like going to college or something like that, but I think once they wrote her out, she only appeared on like maybe 4 other episodes after that. Like I said, she had a baby. She had to do what she had to do as far as Playboy and movies and everything else. She was arrested in 1991 when she was arrested for robbing a video store. Sympathetic to the former child star and disgusted by her treatment by the press, singer Wayne Newton posted her bail of $13,000 in hopes of giving her a much-needed second chance. Sadly, the second chance didn't stick, and soon she was in court charged with using forged prescriptions to illegally obtain value. Now this here was the saddest part for me to read. On May 7th, 1999, she gave what would be her final interview on a radio show by Howard Stern. I don't know why she went on this show. She was declaring herself drug-free. But, everyone, because I actually listened to the interview, everyone that called in, they were so mean to her, from calling her every drug name in the book, from white trash to this and that. It was horrible. Nobody had nothing good to say with her. She was trying to declare herself as drug-free as she was bombarded by Howard Stern's listeners. The following day, the next day, her and her fiancé traveled to their model home in Oklahoma to visit her fiancé's family. During the visit, she claimed she was ill and decided to take a nap. She died in her sleep of an overdose of Loratab and Valium. Medical investigators ruled the death a suicide. So, she was doing well for a while, and then she went on this goddamn show, radio show, Howard Stern. And when I tell you, listened to all of it. She was like the sweetest person on the radio. She was really trying to hold on to whatever fame she had. She was trying to, it was just horrible, just the things they were saying to her. And I thought she took it well, but I guess she did not. Loratab, by the way, is actually a pain medication. It's like Percocet in a way. So she took Percocet and Valium together, and what that does is that slows down your breathing, and you eventually stop breathing and die. So, that interview, knowing that she did that interview the day before and then killed herself the next day, it's just people don't understand how words can really hurt someone, and it was so uncalled for. And I don't know why Howard Stern did not stop that effing interview, but I would have walked out. But I guess she was just trying to reclaim herself or explain herself, but it just was not working out. Oh my God, heartbroken. Moving on to Todd Bridges, who was the older brother. So it was Arnold. Gary Coleman was the youngest, and then we had Todd Bridges as Willis, the older brother. By the age of 13, he took on the role of Willis Jackson on Different Strokes. He was already a seasoned actor, having appeared on such shows as Little House on the Prairie, The Waltons, and the critical acclaimed miniseries Roots. He was arguably the most experienced on the show of the three young stars. So between him, Dana, and Gary, he was the most experienced as far as being an actor. But see, as documented in his memoir, Killing Willis from Different Strokes to the Mean Streets to the Life I've Always Wanted, Bridges' life off screen was far from ideal. His father was an alcoholic who took out his frustration on his family. Sexually assaulted by his trusted publicist at the age of 12, Bridges was left feeling confused and betrayed. Now, why this bothered me is, sorry, I had to clear up my throat, and then I ran out of iPhone storage, and so I had to do a little, magic. But where we left off at, we were saying that he was sexually assaulted by the age of 12, leaving him feeling confused and betrayed. Now, I remember him going on the Wendy Williams show and explaining that he thought that sexual assault was normal. He thought that was part of life. Like, he did not know that that was wrong, because he had so much trust into his publicist. And he did say that people on the show on Different Strokes was like, no, that's not normal. And that's how he found out what was happening to him was not normal, which was so sad, because at 12, like he said, he had nobody to turn to, and his publicist was the closest thing to him, and the publicist was also taking his money and raping him. Horrible. While working on Different Strokes, Todd Bridges and Dana began experimenting with drugs. The first thing I ever tried was pot, and Dana made that first time possible. His life took a dark turn with the cancellation of Different Strokes in 1986. Addicted to crack, cocaine, and meth, and unable to work, he turned to And this is what he said on their Oprah show. In 1989, he was arrested for attempted murder in the shooting of a drug dealer. Although he was eventually acquitted, he spent 9 months in jail. More arrests for assault, drugs, and weapon charge followed in the next few years. As detailed by Oprah, Todd avoided returning to jail by entering a year-long rehab program, clean and sober for over 2 decades. Bridges is the last living member of the show. That's sad. So everybody he worked with on Different Strokes is now gone. But he had a rough one, but he was able to turn it around, and that's what I'm telling you. Like, I feel as if sometimes people who are addicts, like I was, 90 days is not enough. You need like a year, and then you need a fresh start, which seemed to work for him, and that worked for me. So now Conrad Bain, who played Mr. Drummond, served as a real-life father figure to the show Troublecast. Sadly, he would outlive 2 of his young co-stars and see a third descend into a life with drugs, abuse, and the law. He also made a positive impression on Todd, and I also remember that too. He said that on the Wendy Williams show that Conrad was more like a father figure than he ever had. And I'm not sure who told Todd that sexual assault was not normal. It could have been him, I don't know. But he did say that Mr. Drummond, when he passed, he was hurt because that was the closest thing he had to a father figure. Todd Bridges would say that Conrad was the sweetest man in the world. From the very beginning, he was like a father to me. He always was very caring and supportive. It was such a relief to be around a kind, generous man who wanted nothing from me and who did nothing but love and nurture me. Yeah, because again, he was robbed of his sexuality. He was robbed of his money. His publicist took Todd's money. Everything is sad. Anyway, in the long run, he also, during other interviews, he refused, and I say he refused to talk about his co-stars' troubles, any of them. Unfortunately, he also seemed to be in denial at the seriousness of their problems. I don't know, maybe he was in denial. I think he knew everything was going on, because let's face it, when you're on the show and behind the scenes and you've been working with people for years, you kind of know what's going on. In another interview, it says that he played down on Todd Bridges with the law, and it's like, well, maybe he didn't want to comment on them. Anyway, later in life, however, he expressed despair at the flight of the different stroke youthful stars. It's painful. It's really painful. It leaves you with such a helpless feeling. I can't bear the thought. I love them all. So basically, he's saying that different strokes ruined a lot of his co-stars' careers. But what do? You can't help everyone. People were robbed of money. People had, suicide, drugs, problems with the law, and it broke his heart because he was the oldest one on there. He was the one that was trying to give everyone good advice and everything else. And, you know, he probably couldn't bear the thought. Like, I've always heard, you know, if you and the cast people got along, it's very hard to see your cast members go downhill, you know. But anyway, he died at the age of 89, complications of a stroke. Charlotte Rae, she was a beloved house mother. Mrs. Garrett, she also was on the Facts of Life. She was born April 22nd, 1996. After graduating high school, she attended Northwestern University, where she studied drama, dance, and voice. She eventually made it to Broadway in 1956. She played in Car 54, Where Are You? And so on and so forth. She also was in Sesame Street. Okay, it says here that, you know, and so she's always been working on Broadway and everything else. She did the children's show Sesame Street. An early call time and busy shooting schedule proved difficult for her to manage. Alcohol became my drug of choice so I can get to sleep at night. And so when you have like these busy schedules and, you know, you're shooting until maybe 11-12 o'clock at night, and then you have to be at Sesame Street at 4 o'clock, it was too much for her to handle, and I guess she could not sleep. In order for her to sleep, she had to use alcohol. It was difficult. I had to get to sleep so I can get up for the kids and do the TV show Monday through Friday. After giving birth to her son, she decided it was time to get clean. At the suggestion of a friend, she attended her first AA meeting after Sesame Street rap party. At the end of the meeting, we all held hands and said the Lord's Prayer. That was the beginning of my sobriety. She was diagnosed with bone cancer the next year, and she died on August 5th, 2018 at the age of 92. I also remember her, because I remember like after different strokes, I know she was like on the Facts of Life or something, and then she did Sesame Street, so, you know, but she lived a long life, 92, and then after having her son, she was sober ever since, so. And now we have Shavar Ross. I think is his name. He was Arnold's best friend. He was a familiar face on TV throughout the 1980s and 90s, appearing on shows ranging from The Love Boat to Magnum P.I. However, he is still known best for playing Arnold Jackson's best friend. I think his name was Dudley on Different Strokes. Of his 43 appearances, none are more memorable than the 5th season, 2-part, very special episode, The Bicycle Man. In this notorious installment, Arnold and Dudley fall under the spell of a seemingly friendly, basically a predator, aka a child. That's what I'm saying. This show did a lot of topics that many shows would not touch. You know, this one his own life, mirroring the plot of The Bicycle Man. This terrible situation actually happened to him in real life. My adopted brother, an older man who my family and I took in and treated him as a family, would make passes at me at night in my sleep, and that really affected me. I spoke up and told my parents. The show helped me realize that I should never be afraid to speak out. He enjoyed a long career and was a familiar face throughout the 1990s on such shows as Growing Pains and Family Matters. He actually briefly pursued a career as a medical technician following his father's death from a heart attack at the age of 38. He has since worked as a director, pastor, and entrepreneur. And now we had a guy by the name of Danny Cooksey. He joined the cast of Different Strokes in the show's 6th season as Sam, the son of Maggie. That was Mr. Drummond's love interest had a son. He was introduced to help the show declining ratings, but it did not help at all. But he went on to work for Nickelodeon, Terminator 2, and then he transitioned to music and voiceovers in 1990. As reported, anyway, it is said that he had a messy marriage. Nothing. Anyway, they had a messy divorce. We're not gonna get into all of that. Janet Jackson was also on the show. I don't think we need to go into what happened to her. And that's basically it, because other people they are mentioning, they were just like stars here and there. Nothing that people would remember any of them for. So on that note, this was really, really sad because we had the maid that was an alcoholic. We had the daughter and the older brother, both on drugs, pregnant at 18, sexually assaulted, raped. Money was stolen from Todd. Then we had Arnold, aka Gary Coleman, who $18 million was stolen from his adopted parents. He had health problems since he came out of the womb. Just sad, and it looks like out of everyone, the father was the only one who really did not have any type of addiction or anything really bad happened to him. So very, very sad. I hope you enjoyed this movie, this video, and if there's any other story or cast you would like for me to break down, let me know down below. As always, love you guys for watching.